Why, hello there. A Knife Still here, bringing you the first proper video, a review in fact, in quite a while. I'm kind of getting over my sickness, and some of the stuff has started to clear up, so things are getting a little bit better. Sort of, kind of, maybe, slightly. Probably not. Either way, I found some time to do my review of the Monterey Bay knives. Sabertooth. As you can see, this is a pretty striking design. It is a design by Ray Laconico for Monterey Bay Knives. He's done several of their designs. And yeah, let's just say this one's pretty cool. I do like this knife. Let's jump into specs first. And oh, I'm gonna have to remember to do the timestamps too. Haven't done this in a while now. Let's jump into specs, get that out of the way, so we can actually start talking about this knife. You have approximately 3 3/4 inches of blade, 8.5 inches overall, 4 3/4 on the handle. Not terrible ratios, good, decent for the size of a knife. It is a large knife, and when you're holding it back here, it definitely feels large, but I mean, it doesn't feel necessarily quite as that much bigger than a standard full-size knife. It is, but it doesn't feel too bad. It's actually pretty manageable. There is a smaller variant called the Wolverine. I mean, Sabertooth and Wolverine. Wolverine is smaller, Sabertooth much bigger. We get it. We know where you're going with this. But this is the larger variant. I particularly prefer this one, so yeah. Let's see if I remember how to do any of this, as it's been quite a while. Our comparisons to our resident small knife, the Civivi Elementum, and full-size Civivi Conspirator. Yeah, this is a bigger knife. It is a large knife. It feels very manageable, very controllable for the size of it, but it is large. Your grip length is, let's see. Back here, you have slightly more than 2 AA batteries, and you have a full giant choil to choke up into. Yeah, you're not probably going to worry about grip length on this one. It's a good-sized knife. It is a liner lock in S90V blade steel, by the way, with titanium scales on bearings. I should have let that zero out first. Let's 0 ounces, 5.10. It's a little heavier than I actually thought it was. I mean, it's not hard to understand why. It's a full-size titanium liner lock with an inset liner in there. Some milling, but not like the most skeletonized ever. But for its size, it really doesn't feel too bad. I guess it's, let's see. Balance point is right around here, so right where you kind of expect it to be. So it does feel okay in the hand. I don't really mind it. I suppose if you're looking for lightweight, well, you probably should be looking at a smaller knife in general, right? T8. T8. Oh, that's T8 too. For some reason, I thought that body screw was T6. No, it's T8. Everything is T8 on this knife. I haven't really had to play with it too much, mind you, because it's been centered, but I have tightened it down, and I was able to tighten it down from one side. I'm not sure this is captive or not. I don't really want to mess with it, but I'll just say this. I have had several Monterey Bay knives. In fact, I have an old guard right here, and even though they have... This one's captive. This one may not be captive, but I haven't had actually any trouble interacting with any of them. I've also had the, though I got rid of it a while back, I had, what's it called, the big Ray Laconico designed aggressive Warncliffe thing that they did. with like a swayback, the slayback. Yeah, it was. I had the big XL slayback, that was a big knife too. I've taken them apart. I've never had any issue, and this is all T8. I don't think you're gonna have a problem. Worst case scenario, maybe you need 2 drivers for the pivot, but I have tightened it, and I was able to do that from one side only. So it could very well be captive. But if not, just get yourself the right stuff, right? not the biggest deal in existence. Where is the calipers? The calipers are right here. Okay. Thickness of the handle scales, 441 thousandths. So under ½ an inch. In fact, I think that's thinner, decently thinner than the. Yeah, that's decent. That's thinner than the Civivi Elementum. This is a thin knife. You don't really even notice it because it's a big knife, but that's a thin knife. 127 thousandths on the blade stock, so I'm guessing between 125 and 130. And behind the edge it does have a decent sized edge bevel on it. But it comes down to approximately 13 or 14 thousandths behind the edge. It's reasonably thin. Is that hollow grind? I don't... That is really hard to tell. I'm trying to look down it. It looks like there might be the slightest bit of hollow on it. But I'm not sure that's... Oh, I hit the camera. Yeah, there might be a little bit of hollow going on here. I'm not sure if it's intentional or it's just subtle and slight. Either way, it does get down pretty thin. And it has a pretty decent sized edge bevel on it, so I'm guessing it's probably... at that thickness, maybe under 20 thousandths, or 20 degrees per side. Gets a little thicker back at the edge, not perfect edge. Bevel. Oh, well, it's thicker. It's slightly higher on one side, but I mean, that could be just the slightest variation in the steel thickness right there. Honestly, for a knife that doesn't really have, like, a decent chunk of this knife is not... wow, words. Okay, suddenly stopping from functioning words. The actual drop on the grind on this thing, it doesn't have the highest grind. However, it is a large blade, so it actually is a reasonably tall. I mean, let's see. The CVV Elementum, does it even have... yeah, it's not even as tall as the grind on this thing, the entire blade. So it does have room to drop down, and it does so reasonably. It still has a decent tip with a decent bit of thickness out there. And overall, yeah, it works really well. It's a good cutter, good access to the tip, functional blade. Before I start stumbling over my lack of ability to talk about apparently grind height is, well, time to move on now into the main actual review of this knife. So, as I already said, S90V, titanium. S90V is good steel. Tends to be a little bit easier to heat treat, it seems, for companies, but can perform almost like M390. Top end, probably very similarly to M390, maybe with just a little bit more... it might not be as fine edge retention-y as M390 at the high end, but seeing as that M390 is almost never at the real high end of it, this is probably going to perform just as well, if not better, than most M390 out there. Like I said, typically easier to heat treat. I believe it doesn't have to be quite as high on the HRC hardness scale, so honestly, S90V is kind of a steel I would prefer over poorly heat-treated M390. It's very comparable, very corrosion resistance, should have good edge retention, reasonable toughness. I think that might excel over M390 in the toughness in a tiny bit, but might like lose out to the top end of M390's fine edge holding, maybe. I have noticed that I don't necessarily love a super polished edge on my S90V. I like a little bit of tooth, so don't take it up too high on the grit fineness. Like, this, right next to me, actually, this S90V Benchmade Osborne. This thing has held a fantastic edge, and as you can see, it's actually got a little bit of the polish remaining. I took it up a little bit further polished than I wanted it to. You can kind of see it right there. This thing's been used, and it's held really well, but I will admit it did start to lose its bite. It had a little more bite when it was before I had finished it and realized that I had actually taken it a little bit further than I wanted. So if you want that like really nasty, aggressive bite, you might not want to put the polish on it. I will say it's held an edge pretty well. It just doesn't bite in quite the same as it did when it was lower. Just semantic stuff. What is this? Is it a drop point blade? Is it a modified Warncliffe? Kind of. It's a spear pointer, really, honestly. It's kind of like a tooth. Yeah, Sabertooth, I get it. But good blade shape. Like I said, good tip access. Not too much belly. Nice for slicing. A little fuller in here for some weight reduction, and the aperture for the actual actuation method, though there is also a front flipper on this knife. You can use either one. They both actually work pretty darn well. Even though this jimping is not really good here, it sits out above the pivot and far out, so I mean, it's super easy. Honestly, the jimping doesn't really do much of anything. Jimping could be better, sure. Does it make a difference? No, it's not hard to actuate it with the front flipper. In fact, this is an extremely easy front flipper. I imagine this slightly smaller one will also be pretty easy for people who struggle with front flippers. But the hole works great. And you can even use the fuller down there if you really want to. No problems. The blade is mostly sterile. In fact, this is a satin finish blade. Only MBK logo here. Normally they put Ray Laconico's logo on the spine, but since there's no room for that, I guess they just decided not to do that. On the slayback, it's at R Laconico on the spine. I don't mind that. In fact, I like that. And this logo, yeah, it's on the flat of the blade. I don't like seeing it on bevels. It's not too obtrusive. MBK's logo looks designy enough that it's kind of just a nice little flourish. I don't mind it being there whatsoever. And S90V is actually right down here. So, yeah, very clean presentation. As I mentioned, it's on bearings, and as you can see, it's pretty darn smooth and reasonably droppy. The plunge grind could be better. I think that's where we actually get a little bit of this taller bit of the edge bevel here, or the cutting bevel, I should say, in this case. The plunge grind comes down almost to the, like, basically to the back of the cutting edge. There's really no reason for that. They could have easily stopped that, like, right here and given you a ton of life before you had to maybe extend this choil out a little bit. All you have to really do is hit it with the Dremel and make that slope a little bit longer, and it'll be perfectly fine. But they could have given you a little bit more before you started having to worry about things like a smile. This will smile on you. It's already starting to get it on one side. As you can kind of see, it raises up a little bit there. However, because of this big choil, you're free to really just use it how you want and cut in what you want. And the stop pin hits way back away from the edge, so you're never going to have an issue with that. So, excellent there. I mean, that was one of my complaints about the MBK Old Guard here. This one does not hit way away from the stop pin or the edge termination. However, I have determined that since the actual stop pin clearly hits right where you hit full thickness, you can still cut in a choil. You just have to be a little bit more careful. It's not actually a problem as much as I thought on the MBK Old Guard, which is nice. But the Monterey Bay Sabertooth, the issue doesn't even present itself as a possibility. It's got a nice internally mounted liner on one side. Looks like it's held in via pocket clip screws and probably the pivot. The access to the lock bar here is pretty good. It's not like huge, but It's bowled out. It is a little bit slick. It's a little bit soft. I noticed that actually on most MBK, they really like having softer, slicker lock bars. It's very consistent on the ones that I've experienced, especially when they're liner locks. It works pretty well on the old guard because the old guard's a little bit thicker. This one is a little bit thick, but because it's such a thin knife, I've not had too much problem with it, but I don't think it'll be a problem. Just note that maybe if you're using it in wet conditions or something like that, maybe you could end up starting to slip off just because there's not a metric ton of room. But under normal circumstances, yeah, it's perfectly fine. More than acceptable. Better than better than many other knives. As you can see, this particular variant is laser etched with a snakeskin pattern. Now, I'm not 100% sure why they went with the snakeskin pattern for the Sabertooth, but they did. Occasionally, you'll find Monterey Bay knives dropping variants of their knives with patterns on them. In fact, I believe there's Ex Machina or something with like a wolf and brass pin pattern and an engraved filigree pattern on one of their other models. More recent ones they've done. These are usually pretty limited in numbers. I don't believe this is available. However, the base model of this knife, without this, still has a really, really nice, at least to my knowledge, the one that's still available, has a, like, shadow box, or, yeah, I guess a shadow boxed diamond pattern? Like, faux inlay kind of thing going on its scales, and it looks really, really good. Like, really good. I would be completely happy with that one as well, personally. In fact, the reason I got this one is I saw it on Blade Binge. This is secondhand, but, I mean, it's basically completely unused. And you can pretty much tell it's basically completely unused. It feels like it's still got the factory edge on and everything like that, and there's not a mark on the dang thing. So I got this one because it was cool. I thought that was just interesting and fun and cool looking. And I know that some of these laser etched versions don't do a lot of them, and they don't necessarily come back to them or anything like that. So I thought this was an interesting variant of this knife to get. However, I was very tempted to get the base knife because the diamond pattern and just the whole knife itself is pretty cool and pretty distinct. It does have just flat titanium scales, and in that way I do kind of wish they had went with this very slight contouring that they do on, like, actually the old guard on the website right now I think is flat scale too, but the original old guard had a slight contouring to it. I kind of wish it had that very, very slight contouring instead of just being a flat scale. But it's super chamfered and rounded and softened, and it's ultra comfortable, right? It's not a problem. Would I've paid like an extra $20 for that? Definitely. I'm not complaining with what they've done here. It's really good. It's really comfortable. In fact, it's got a very neutral grip. Most of Ray Laconica's stuff is pretty good and easy to hold on to and pretty ergonomic. I don't think you're going to have to worry too much about that. The pocket clip is also done with snake scale. It is a titanium pocket clip with more flex than you think. Like, you get these wide titanium pocket clips, and a lot of times you don't get them to have a lot of flex. This one works really, really well. Good retention, good everything. Honestly, the pocket clip's great. It's not deep carry. It's only about to here, but you have stuff to grip onto to pull it out of your pocket. It's not a problem. It's not like it's sticking out horribly. It's a medium depth. It works well. It's nice. Simple standoffs for the instead of like a backspacer. I don't mind that. Sometimes I think it can help keep the price down a little bit. Maybe. Maybe not. Occasionally I like seeing standoffs on my knives. I don't need to have everything have a backspacer, right? So, this is a good knife. It is perfectly centered. There is no play. In fact, well, there wasn't any play. Let's No. Still no play. Very good. I actually haven't, other than the initial slight adjustment that I made to it, I have not made any real adjustments to this knife, and yes, it appears to be still pretty darn perfectly centered. This is a good knife. This is a big knife, but as I said, there is a smaller variant. I don't know if they are available at the time of what you might be seeing this. Who knows? Monterey Bay Knives tends to do their models for a while, and sometimes they'll bring some of the popular ones back, like the Old Guard has made some returns in budget versions and different variants. Like I said, there's a flat-scaled one, I think, on the site at the moment. They come back here and there. Maybe subscribe to their newsletter if you want to see what's on their website. Check consistently. Occasionally put special variants of things up, but they usually do their models for a little while, and then, unless it's a really popular one, like I think the Old Guard did pretty well, they usually move on. Like, I don't think there's any... I know there's some variants of the Pincher up. But some of their older models, I don't think they've brought back as much. It's you just have to keep watching. It'll come back around probably, but it might be a while. If it's... Though, it is available right now, so... What the heck am I saying? I have no idea. Blah, 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 blah. This is a really good knife. Oh, and it's a reversible pocket clip. It's not inset or anything like that, but it is held in by 2 screws, so it doesn't move on you. So, well-designed, striking shape. Honestly, it's pretty... a little bit aggressive, a little bit kind of cool, a little bit different than most of your stuff you get, especially with this sort of almost spear point-ish blade. It's not quite, but you know what I'm talking about. This is a really good knife, and guess what? The base price of this knife in S90V, everything you see here except for the laser etching, but instead you get like a faux inlay of diamond patterning titanium scales, which looks absolutely wonderful, is $150 right now, at least as of time of viewing this and filming this. I did check the Monterey Bay website, and it's $150 freaking dollars for this. That is wonderful. Let me just put that in like, let me just say, I cannot overstate that enough. This is a large knife in S90V, full titanium. I think the liner lock is steel. I'm quite positive because there's no inset. There's no lock bar insert. That's what I'm looking for. The detent ball is pressed directly into that, so that should be steel. But titanium, even with flat scales, but with the texturing on the thing and its normal variant, this is a wonderful knife. This is an extremely recommendable knife, and I mean, it's definitely giving you an interesting design that is both functional and fun and interesting and something to be enthused about, because we are enthusiasts. Well, I am about knives, but yeah, this is really good. This is really well priced. I am completely okay with that. It is made in China. Monterey Bay knives. I mean, let's be honest. Most knives that are coming in at this price in anything remotely close to titanium are coming out of China. And there really aren't that many, other than like Kubi and a couple others, that are really trying to push for titanium and S90V at this price point. You get a little bit out of like Artisan, usually at a slightly higher price point. Kubi will compete. Yeah, that's most of them. Occasionally you'll get one from Kaiser, kind of stuff like that. It's well priced. It's well made. It's a good pickup, honestly. I'll put the Monterey Bay Knives website down below. You'll just have to scroll down and find the knife. I don't get anything from that. I'm just doing this because, honestly, it's a recommendable knife, and it's a really cool one. So, that is all. I've taken a long time. I've stumbled, stuttered, first time in a while. Oh, also you get a whole freaking set of extra hardware. In fact, wow, yes, full hardware. Stop pin, standoffs, pivot. It is captured. Hey, look at that. I can prove it. Captured pivot. Perfect. Even though it's dual-sided, one side is captured, so you'll only be screwing from one side. I think it's probably this side that you screw it from, if I remember correctly. And extra bearings. Full set of extra hardware in there. Monterey Bay cloth. Very nice pouch. Yeah, honestly, this is really good. Top-notch stuff here. I'm quite happy with this. I can't say that the S90V is like perfectly heat treated, but like I said, most of the companies, even in China, they seem to have gotten the S90V to be consistently 60 to 61, which will make the S90V perform pretty well. It's definitely a super steel, and I have no complaints. This is good. This is really good. I like this. I recommend this. I'm going to end things here. I will say thank you for watching. Consider liking and subscribing. I should definitely have said that earlier, because who makes it to this part of the video? Who knows? If you make it to this part of the video, let me know. But I'm done for the first time back. And that's everything. So thanks for watching. See you later. Have a great day. Appreciate it. Bye for now.